Hello, everybody. This is Pip Coleman coming in to do the Find Your Soul show. And this week, I have another special guest because this month's topic, September, is worthiness. And so I'm talking to the lovely Sondre Callec today, all the way from the Wealthy Goddess community. Welcome.
Sondre. Welcome. Thank you so much for having me on the show. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, Pip. Always.
Yay. Yeah. So we're going to be talking a little bit about worthiness from the perspective of abundance and that concept of your net worth equals your self-worth and all that juicy stuff around money and feeling worthy. So where to begin?
Oh yes, where to begin? Where to begin?
Yay. Right. So I thought we'd start, I guess, with that question of, when you think about worthiness, what comes up for you in terms of the energy or the stuff around worthiness? What comes up for you?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting question because, like how we all view worthiness is, different for everybody, right? And so I was thinking about this, and I think that, one of the biggest things that I've seen throughout like my corporate career and now inside of the Wealthy Goddess Code, where I teach, women how to price, package and deliver their soul work to their tribe and their community. I think that worthiness for me is about being able to take the steps that you know you need to take, right? Whether that's to, I don't know, it's like, it's about, worthiness is about knowing your value, understanding your value in the marketplace, right? And so when we're talking about, like self-worth equals net worth, right? And I remember hearing this a while ago and I was like, oh my goodness. I thought I had a higher level of worthiness, right? And so it's always, we're always evolving. It's always the next step, right? And so I think that worthiness is, for me, it really is about owning your value, about who you are as a person, the journey that you've taken, and the work that you're wanting to do or are currently doing. Yeah. So I think purpose is also kind of tied into that worthiness a bit as well. We all want to have a juicy experience of the life that we're having. And for the women that I help through the Wealthy Goddess Code, they want to have a juicy and joyful experience of the work that they do and the people that they serve. Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. I think that's great. That whole concept of, I agree. I think that your purpose is linked in quite closely to the feeling of worthiness and the feeling of deserving of feeling deserving of your good or your or love or money or whatever it is that is the goodness.
The juicy goodness.
In your life. So that makes perfect sense to me. So how has that shown up for you in terms of your life and becoming either aware of the fact that you weren't feeling worthy or moving into that space of worthiness in a, I don't know, business sense or in a life sense?
I think for me, like when I started out in my career, I was a young mum. I was a very young mum. And I started out, working in an office, which I really enjoyed. The only problem was I cannot type to save my soul. Dyslexia rules in my brain. And it's sort of been a constant challenge for me. And imagine being a secretary. Can't type properly. And is pretty dyslexic to the point where she can't proof her own work. So, it was a real challenge. And, when you're doing something that really doesn't match who you are and who you are becoming, then your worthiness goes down, right? By the interactions that you have with other people. And so for me, it was pretty apparent that I needed to step away from what I was doing and find something else that I really wanted to do. And for me, that actually just happened, you know, by chance. I was dared to apply for my first sales job by a flatmate after an encounter at a used car lot. And long story, very, very short, was that I got my first sales role at 23, working for Honda Cars in a little town, Wellington, New Zealand, where I was raised. And, you know, with each step that I needed to take, you know, as my career progressed and I went on and worked in different corporates, you know, Shell and the banking, and then finally into recruitment, you know, each one of those is a step, and each one of those raised my level of self-worth, right? Because there was a way that I could actually go, yes, I'm actually good at this thing called sales, right? And it played into, unbeknown to me, lots of natural strengths, right? And, you know, it's been a really exciting journey for me to be able to find my worthiness, to find a place where I feel that I excel at. And then, of course, you know, you add into the mix of all of that, you know, raising a partner, well, you almost raise your partner, really, don't you, right? Raise your family, find a partner. And with each step, it's been a requirement to do some discovery, you know, along my personal and spiritual development pathway. It's been one step at a time. And so for me, I think that I think it showed up so many places. But for me, as a young woman, you know, when I started out with a little one in tow, you know, then I equated my self-worth with what I had the capacity to earn, right? And so that changed, you know, our entire lives and how we did them, and, you know, all the joy that came with that. And then you get to a point where self-worth doesn't actually equate to the money that you earn, right? And then you're in a whole new dilemma, because who am I, and what do I have to offer now, and how can I be of service? How can I help other people? And how can I have fun doing it, right? So for me, worthiness is kind of tied into this fun element, right? Because I always want to have fun. I actually represent as the innocent archetype, and therefore, you know, that's playful and fun and outgoing and all of those sorts of things, which is really funny because I would actually class myself as an introvert, not an extrovert. So I think that worthiness is just a one step at a time process, and it grows with time as you grow. And I think it's when we stagnate, right, when the river of life doesn't actually keep flowing, and we get these deep pools and we get a bit stuck, right? And I think, you know, is it for you? Is it money, right? Is it being able to serve more clients? Is it being able to be the very best version of yourself and enjoy the life that you're having, right? And so there's all these little elements that come into worthiness. But I do really believe that the amount of money that you are able to attract and have flow through your life, there is some parallels between self-worth or worthiness and your ability to actually make money. And that's a difference, you know, that I think that not many people really get. It's not really about what's in the bank right now. It's, am I on the pathway, and is each step leading me, you know, to the golden leprechaun underneath the rainbow, right? Is the pot full or is it half full? All of those sorts of things. So I think worthiness for me has always been tied into money. It's always been tied into my capacity to earn, until I stepped into my self-development journey, and then that opened up a whole new can of worms, right? Yeah, because there's a lot of self-healing that needs to go on. And I think loving yourself, like genuinely loving yourself, genuinely liking yourself, for me, I think that's a big core for worthiness. So yeah,
that's so cool. It's that journey is so interesting, and you know, over the last sort of 10 years or so, I've noticed that I'm speaking more about worthiness, and you know, that sort of topic is coming up more often. And when you talk about that sort of, it's about trusting yourself. It's about all of the things that come with self-esteem and, standing in your own power. I mean, I think it became most obvious to me when I was writing my book in 2019, when I was writing and then not writing the book. It was actually the bit where we got to the publishing bit that I started to realize that my self-worth was really tied into what other people thought of me. So that actual process of putting the book together and writing it was not that much of a big deal. But then when I actually realized I had to put it out there for everybody to see. And it was past the point of no return, really. I mean,
exactly.
There was, yes, I suppose I could have pulled it at any point. Really, I could have said, no, I'm not going to do this. But I said to my publisher just before we were about to launch, like literally the books have been printed. We're launching. And the week before I was like, no,
not doing it.
No. And he said, I wondered why you hadn't contacted me for a while because I was just having this like flip out about, who am I? Who am I to put this book out and have people read it? And who am I to, share my opinions and my thoughts and my feelings about my experience, and to share wisdom and am I wise? Am I, and all of those questions that come up. And I remember my publisher saying to me that most people never get past the writing phase because they get stuck in that spiral of am I even worthy of writing a book?
And I think too, like what you're saying there, like for me, I translate that to, you're displaying huge amounts of vulnerability to bring your work out into the world and such personal stories as well, right? And what's the, like that value that you add through that journey and all of the discovery that you share and your wisdom that you share, right? And I believe that worthiness is also part of the community. Like what I was saying right at the beginning, my worthiness was taking a hammering like on a daily basis, right? And, we need to be surrounded by people who are on the same or similar journey and understand that, raising our levels of vulnerability to become visible, to share our value, because that's actually what you're doing, And I actually find that a lot also with women who, create courses, and they create them and they create them and they create them, but they never take the next step of vulnerability. And, being vulnerable doesn't mean they have to share, that everything, but it is part of like, I can own this part of myself, right? And I'm happy to share that. And my journey is worthy, and who I'm becoming is worthy. But that's like a step by step by step by step all of the time.
It is. It's such an interesting space to be in when you realize that your worthiness you have to step up to the next level to accept the next level of whatever it is, whether it's step up so that you can put yourself out there for a relationship, or step up if you're going to put yourself out there to actually advertise the courses that you've made.
Exactly. And make an offer. Right. And I think too, like what we're talking about, this step-by-step thing, it'd be like you writing this book and then just sitting there waiting for the universe to go, okay, Pip, it's time. Right. And it's never the time. Do you know what I mean? Whether we're launching a book or a course or asking somebody out on a date or signing up for some self-discovery or personal development, that takes that takes courage, and that is part of worthiness. But you can't do it when you're just sitting there, right? You've got to be able to take the next steps. I refer to it as, like we've all heard the analogy of the inner GPS, but the universe source partnership cannot happen unless you're moving, right? So I think it's very, very cool and very relatable what you're saying, but it's we see it a lot. Yeah,
definitely. And it's not, you know, I mean, you're talking about women in business, that's your specialty. And I'm talking about you know, a book, but the same processes apply. The same theory is underlying that. You know, if you're talking about worthiness in terms of health, it applies in that same way. And you know, if you're talking about worthiness in terms of life purpose, like you were saying, if you are doing a job that, or something that actually is at a lower level and it's not satisfying you, and I say lower level in, I'm being very general there. I'm not making judgment on whether it's more valuable or not. But if you're doing a job that you feel is not satisfying you, but you don't feel like you're worthy to step into
the next
your own business or the next thing or whatever, then that's where having a coach or somebody who can help you to, you know, do those, like you teach women to have those, put that structure in place so that they can put their course out there. And I have a similar process, not with regard to business, but with regard to life. Like, how can you put a structure in place to get realigned and step into your power, I guess. So I love that. And then there's people in our wellness community and lots of different people online and in the world who are speaking to that. It's just which one of those people resonates with you.
You know, all about the energy, all about the feeling, all about the connection, and to create true partnership. Right. And that's a process in and of itself, isn't it, Pip?
It is absolutely. I mean, I have had phone calls with people and I go, you know what, I don't think this person really resonates with me. And it's really takes a lot to say no to somebody. I think there's a lot to be said about saying no in terms of worthiness.
Oh, for sure. You know, like as a you know, boundaries are something that I'm learning all the time. It's like once there's a boundary in place, there's a new level of a boundary. It's the next step in understanding what that is for yourself and how that actually helps other people, right? Because without a boundary of not knowing who's the right client to work with you, or who's the right person to go on a date with, or who's the right person to write your book with, or, you know, a multitude of other things. If you don't know yourself well enough, then there is no boundary, right? And so I think the boundaries, you know, absolutely. And they grow step by step along with everything else.
Definitely. Because some people I know, and I have been like this, and still sometimes fall into that little trap of, and you spoke to me about this when I did my coaching with you, that, you know, some people aren't going to be the right client, and you need to have the right words to say, and there's centeredness within you to go, I recognize this person's not my person, and have a list of people that you can refer to, and have the words ready, you know, to say if the person doesn't quite fit with your paradigm of you know, who you want to work with.
And I think that's the difference, you know, like that's also a worthiness thing, by the token of, I am here to serve a specific client that resonates with me. I'm not here just to have clients for clients' sake.
Right.
I'm not just here to make money. I'm actually here to serve. Right. And that's a huge, huge difference. And not many people get that.
That I remember listening to Kyle Gray one day talking about a little affirmation that he says in the morning. And I know you have your beautiful incantations that you do to create that space of abundance and feeling confident in yourself. But what he said was, it's along the lines of, I attract the perfect people to me today to serve, who also fulfill me.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
And I was like, yeah, so you serve them and they fulfill you. Not I serve, and then I'm exhausted and I die.
No, please no. So much more to life than that.
Yeah. And that's something that a lot of people get stuck in, that, don't they? That I'm here to serve, and then they forget that they also need to be fulfilled.
Yeah,
themselves.
absolutely. And, you know, that's that difference between service and servitude, right? You know, and, you know, for the big, generous, heart-centered people that I normally attract, that's a really big lesson to learn.
Yeah, it's
right?
huge.
You know, work with people you love. Life's too short. You know, you're in partnership, you know, and I'm talking from a business perspective, right? You're in partnership with your business. It's a living, breathing, energetic entity all of its own. And we'll make sure you fill it up with the very best people, the most amount of fun, because that is where you serve, right?
Yeah.
That's where you fill your cup. And not draining it with people who don't want to, not good, right? And then, you know, and we, you know, people when they start out in business, that's often the thing. They're going, oh my gosh, I don't want that person. Oh my gosh, I don't want them to think this. Oh my gosh, I don't want them to blah blah blah. Right? One of my hang-ups I had to get over was, you know, I teach women how to sell, right? And it's an extraordinary gift. And once they get it, they realize they're not selling. They realize that they're in service, right? And that's just a way to add to that. But I tell you what, the stuff that people come with, it's just amazing, right? And you can't have a business like that when you're going,
oh,
it's knowing yourself, knowing what you want. That is an enormous key to worthiness, right?
Excellent.
And having joy, having fun, working with people you really love, you know.
Definitely.
We have so much choice. Yeah. It's really, really cool. It is a beautiful, beautiful place to be. And you know what? That's abundance to me. Choice. Freedom. Of the freedom we're allowed currently here in Victoria. Let's not get into that conversation. But you know what I mean, right?
No, that's I think that's where you rise above the outside stuff. That is what I'm talking about all the time. Is whatever's going on around you, whatever's happening in the outside world, in the economy, in the whatever the government's doing, we can still be doing the things that we love and serving the people that we want to serve and being fulfilled. And that is something that is nothing to do with all those other people and outside influences.
No, it's definitely an inside job, ladies and gents.
Definitely. Yay. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm always excited to have a chat to you.
Oh, beautiful. Me too, Pip. It's been a blast. So I really appreciate it. And I hope that people, you know, really got something out of this. And you know, this curiosity to know who we are, to know what we want. And in a business sense, because I'm always talking business, you know, it's who am I? How do I represent? Who are my clients? What's the pathway to them? And what's the pathway that fulfills me? Just beautiful.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So if anyone'd like to get in touch with Sondre, obviously they can go over to the Wealthy Goddess community on Facebook.
Absolutely. On Facey, check us out. It'd be great.
Yay. And then under this video, I'll also be putting a little link to one of Sondre's. It's a quiz.
Oh, yes. It's a fun quiz, because if you haven't gathered, in the few minutes that I've spoken to you, fun is very, very important to me. And a quiz was a very good, fun way to do that. So it's called your Sacred Sales Archetype. In there, you will find an enormous amount of value and really get to understand who you are and how you're being in your business, who those clients are, and what they really need and want from you right now.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye for now.